Hi, it's Nick. I'm making this video to show you what I've done on my layout since the previous update. This is my update number 6. As you can see, there's a brick wall with arches, actually in 2 parts. And I built that a couple of years ago from my old layout, and what it was part of a bridge. But in the old layout it worked fine, but in my new layout it was too low and I really didn't have any area to put it in, so I decided to take the bridge apart and use the sidings for background, as you can see. And then the arches I painted black, and as you can see there's a car and there's a road which leads into the archway. I was going to put a mirror in there, but I realized that it would have a reflection of the car and so on, so it wouldn't really look realistic of it. So I decided to do it this way. Now the top part above the archway, you'll see black. That is just coloring it black so that you won't see the pine. I built a brick wall and it's in 2 parts. And I used the same material as I used while creating the flat buildings on the paper. Much to my surprise, I used a house paint, and it's a latex. And I was concerned when I was building the flat houses that when I used paint it warped it a little bit, but this particular one, it didn't warp it, and I was really surprised. So it's basically just regular flat house paint, which is a color red, and the brickwork I used a crayon pencil. And the bricks are 1/2 inch high by inch long. Now as I move on to the back part of the layout, the board, there's another section of brick. Now that particular one, I used a 3/8 plywood, and I cut it, and it's the same paint and the same method of doing the other brickwork. And the reason I use that particular one comes out a little bit more, so when it's next to one of the houses that I created, it's a little out further, so it gives an appearance that the building is back a little bit. Now the first building that you see there, that's a different type of paper that I used, and the grayish color of the building, I used the paint on that, and it didn't warp it. But as far as the roll-up gates, the doors, blue crayon, and the doors are brown crayon. And I made a little platform out of wood, and that's like a loading dock. That's where the truck is, just to give it some depth to it. It looks pretty good. And then you can't read it, but I put a name of the company, which is Independence Company. I was going to bring the video closer, but it gets kind of blurry. Now the buildings next to it, that is the same material that I used. It's a paper, and I have 2 companies, and those 2 is the buildings itself is paint, but again the doors and the roll-ups I used a gray crayon on it. And if you see on top the little green, those are little air conditioning units, and I made little stacks on it with the blue sky background. Now after that red building, those are the same materials that I used for the brickwork, and you can't notice it too much, but when I painted it, the sky, it has a little ripple to it. So that's the one I was concerned about doing paint on the buildings, because I was afraid it would warp, and then all that work would be, wouldn't look good. So all of the buildings are crayon, windowsills and the roof sills, which is wood, and that's also crayon. you'll notice there's one that has like a white sign on it and a lot of X's in the windows. To be honest with you, I made a mistake, so I figured, well, I'll just cross it out. And basically what it says up there is that the building is condemned by the building department. So covered up one of my mistakes. It looks pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. And then again, the rest of the buildings are the same. And as you notice, I made them higher and lower and so on. But the buildings from the factory over to the brickwork, those buildings are the back of the buildings. And on the lower part, you'll see a straight piece, and it's colored in crayon. That's the fence. And the reason I created it that way is because I didn't have enough room to use the front of the building, because then I'd have to make sidewalks and so on. I just don't have it. So I remembered when I was riding on the trains, you'll see the back of the buildings or factories, and they would have a fence. So that's why what I wanted to create that particular illusion to the layout. It looks pretty good. And then after that, you'll see there's more brickwork. Now, I've done that a while ago. I had that particular one in my upgrade number 5 video. And also, you'll see the beginning of my tunnel to the end of it right here. Now, the inside of the tunnel is completely done. In between the tracks, I used the same color paint that you see on the stonework, so it gives it a nice even look. The top part that you see, that's getting ready to put the second level on that. And as I mentioned in my 5th update, I'm going to have upper level, and also as I come back to where I built all those buildings, I'm going to have an upper level over there. So that's one of the reasons I also wanted to create it, the buildings on, draw them rather, on it. Because once I put that top layer, you're not going to really see it as much as you see it now. Anyway, I think that's how it will look. And then over where where the truck is in the factory, there's a space where the brickwork is. I'm not sure whether I'm going to make like a little industrial area there, or maybe I'll put back I have a building in there, which was like a loading dock building for the trains. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. And then over where the archwork is and the brickwork, that's also going to have a upper level. I'm only going to cover the 2 outer tracks. I'm not going to go with the inner track. And then, of course, as I mentioned in my 5th layout, I'm going to have to somehow make bridges to connect the 3 different upper levels. So that's I'm thinking about doing. And then, of course, I'm going to come from this upper level portion over the tunnel and bring it across to connect to this section of the upper level, and there'll be probably a trestle coming right across all of the lower level, but we'll see how that works out. And it'll be made out of wood, and we'll see how that will turn out. I guess that's about it right now. Layout update number 6. You have a great day. I'm going to end it now. Take care, fellas. Bye.